let's see. I'm gonna share my other screen. There we go. I'll pull this here. I'm also gonna quickly I'm gonna tweet this out. How do you? There we go. Oops, that's not the one. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll retweet this one. Okay. Cool. So let's see. So today I want to start with Breadcrumb, and I kind of know what I want, but let's check what Bootstrap does. So we're using Bootstrap as a reference, and we don't want to copy everything. We just want to see how how components look and what the behavior is and all of that. Bootstrap also has accessibility guideline, which is actually one of the things I kind of want to take from them. Okay, so breadcrumbs are these like the navigation items. I'm not sure if the website actually has them, but it's kind of like this. So as always, let's start with the API. I'm going to start with the MDX file. This is where I document things. Let's make this slightly bigger. Okay. Cool. So, yeah. JSX. I'm going to open this thing. I'm going to make some space. Alright. So what I want is kind of something like this, where you have a breadcrumb menu and you can put things inside it, right? So for example, something like this. Here we have like 3 links, right? So maybe we can just let people bring their own tags. So for example, if you have an anchor tag, we'll do something like this. Maybe this is home, and then this should be components. This should be components / breadcrumb. Right. And this is kind of what the API is. So right now it doesn't render anything because, well, we didn't build anything. But this is kind of how I'm thinking about it. And it's usually like the last element is active. So that one should not be a link. That one should be a span, and then we can probably take care of that. It has some props. Export, default, breadcrumb, perfect. Okay, and then of course we kind of had to import React from React, right? Cool. So what I usually like to do here is I'm going to use breadcrumb examples.simple, right? So this is what you see on the screen, but we don't necessarily want that to render. So I kind of abstract into a different file, which is here, and I keep them together over here. So in this file we actually just kind of want the same thing, right? Return this, and then we gotta wrap it in the example wrapper, which gives a theme, gives a padding, background, a few things. Okay, this should do, and then we can use it here, right? And now when we implement things, so let's just say props to our children first, just to get something on the screen, right? So get these 3 links, basically rendered what you have here. Right, now there's a bunch of things we want to do. This is like the setting angle, that you want them with a margin, you want this separator in between, and you want the last one not to be a link, right? Okay. So for the margin, we kind of want to wrap them in something. Maybe we can just create our own children. Okay, so another thing I would like to do is let's import styled from utils. It's in reactron/utils. And okay, let me show you what goes inside this file. So it's a customized version of emotion styled, which should forward prop from style system. It's a wrapper around with this one function that I always have to pass. So I'm gonna say the element is styled, and what should be a breadcrumb should be a div, right? And then we're just gonna wrap it here, and then maybe render this thing inside it. So that's like the root element, and then we want the child element, or that should be like a span, I guess. Span, and here's where we want a bunch of things, right? So we want like a margin and a separator and stuff. Okay, there's something on the comments. Hey Abhinav, good morning. Shivam is asking, how often do people use render props? I believe render props making program flow unpredictable. So render props has its benefits, but also has its downsides. I want to say that I've written about render props. It's probably on my blog here. Render props. Maybe not. But the idea is that it solved interesting problem of clashing. What do you call it? Props clashing, like when your parents and child, like the multiple layers passing the same props, right? Prop conflicts. I'm sure I'm gonna talk about it. So there we go. I think it's this one. It's on sid.studio/talks, and it's the one I gave at React Pune. Over there I explain it. Saying out loud, hooks kind of gets rid of a bunch of those problems, and I want to say I've given a talk about that as well. It's probably in this one, the first one you see here. Yeah, I think so. Hey man, do you have a link to the first stream? Yeah, I think if you go to YouTube/sid-studio, which is probably like you can just link from here, and you go to videos, you'll see it. There you go. It's like the second video over here. All right, cool. Awesome. So let's get back to our child element. So what we want here is we want a separator in between things. So we will have to kind of map between the elements and then introduce a separator, right? So let's do that. To map, you want to use react.children.map and pass it props.children and a function. This function will receive a child. I'm gonna blow my screen a little. Cool. Okay, and here we basically want to render. I'm gonna get children here and then use this. Cool. Here you want to render the thing, the child element. So actually, if I just say child, then it will create exactly what we have, right? Yeah, so this is the same thing. And what we want to do is, I want to see if it's the last element or not. So is the last element, okay, so if it's the last element, the index should be equal to props.children.length -1, I want to say. And so now we want to return, I want to create this like a shell, and then the child is inside it. But also, if it's not the last, actually, let's just say if it's last, then render nothing. If it's not the last, then you want to render like a separator. right? I can get rid of this now. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so you got these separators, right? That's perfect. Also, if it's a last, then you don't really want to render this. You want to render a span here. So the thing is, like in a breadcrumb, all of these are like navigation items, but the last one should not be a link because you're already there, right? If you look at this example, you're basically navigating through, and the last one is here. So, but that means we kind of have to tap into the props of the element itself. So, yeah, I think the API that we made was, this is not a good API then. It should be, yeah, we kind of need an item. So I think we can say breadcrumb.link, and they're always links. So that's perfect. And I can get rid of this. Right. Perfect. Cool. And now, of course, it should break because we don't have breadcrumb.link. Cool. So I'm going to say const link. Okay. Link is actually another function. Let me just hook it up here. So breadcrumb link is a function, and hopefully I can replace this with just like the native link component. I haven't built that yet. Replace link. Sorry, I'm gonna add to do replace with link component in the future, when future is like when I actually build one. And cool. So for now, again, let's just say this simply returns children, and then we can attach these by saying breadcrumb.link is actually this component. Cool. Right, so this is back, and I guess we don't have to do any of this now. Okay, so basically undo all of this and say props.children. Oh wait, we still need the separator, so let's keep this. And now, cool, so when you give this thingy, by default it should render a anchor tag, right? And then just kind of pass on all the props, right? So that should get us back to the status, which is great. And okay, wait, who is this? You have a rogue backslash here. Okay, and then we kind of want to render the child, but we also want to tell the child if it's the last, so that over here we can say if props dot is last. Actually, I'm going to destructure that because we don't want to pass it down to the anchor tag. If it is last, then just render a span with everything. Otherwise, render the link, right? Perfect. Okay, I guess we can use react.clone element, which is like one way to pass elements. You basically create a new element on the fly and then pass it the additional prop you want. Cool. I want to see what is last is, and this is going to be a boolean. So you can't just like when you render it, it's not really going to show anything. So you got to JSON stringify it. Stringify. Perfect. So it says false, and here we go. This is true, and there's like an extra thing here. I'm not sure where does that come. Ooh, I created an additional nesting here. My bad. Great, right? So we have this true, which is perfect, and then we're passing it along to the child, and the child in this case is the child element, of course. Sorry, not the child element, but the breadcrumb link. So I'm gonna actually render this as well. Let's console log is last. Typo. false, false, false twice true, which seems perfect. And now I have, if it's lost, then return span, otherwise return the link. Cool, that looks perfect. That's the style we were going for. And now we also want to add some margins and stuff. So let's create another element called the separator props, and then it should return. For now, it should return this. But actually, let me create like a styled element for this. Const. Let's see. Separator is a styled. What should it be? Maybe it should be a span, I guess. That looks cool. And then instead of just rendering it like this, I'm going to render a component with the backslash and separator. Perfect. And now we're actually using a style system. So style system exports this utility called space, which we can pass it to our separator. Actually, I don't like this style of passing. I'm going to pass it like this. And what this does is basically separator, our component now has space related properties. And if you go to the API, you see space, and basically these are all the properties that it gets. So we kind of want like a left right padding, this one. So, or actually could be a margin as well. So I'm going to say margin X is something, right? And this something needs to come from like a set of variables. So I'm just gonna go ahead add that project as well. Yep, that's the one. Cool. So already hooked this set of tokens here, and these are the space, right? So you have an array of spaces, and the idea is that you should only choose from these and not like pick your own and like pixels and stuff, so that you kind of get like a consistent feel. I'm gonna go with like 4 pixels to start with. Ideally, you shouldn't even look at this. You should just say something like 1, right? And that should take the first element from here. And if that feels too small, right, like this actually does feel too small, I'm gonna make it 2. Right, and that takes the next element. So it's like on a scale. You don't say take 5 pixels, you just say pick it on the scale, right? Now we also want to change the color of this. So again, color is a valid property here. You can pass it along, and then color should be again. Let's look at our token / colors. I have all of these set up. I'm gonna pick a gray. Should be legible, but not too much. So this goes from 0 to 9. I'm gonna pick like maybe a 7. Grays dot 7. I don't think that worked. Color is defined. Wait, is it GR? Yep, that's the spelling. Kind of hate that you have to write the American spelling, but Grays dot 7. Let's try another color. Okay, 7 is too dark, I guess. 5 looks cool. I'm gonna try 6 as well. Nope, I like 5. Cool. The other thing we want this to be the same color as well. I'm gonna kind of cheat and just put it on like the parent color, probably the same color. Yep. So this is cheating because like I'm putting it on the parent, I'm not putting it on the right element, but because there's a link, they're gonna take care of themselves. Cool. So we have this, and kind of looks good here. Now there are a few weird things here, right? Which is you might not want an anchor tag. So we're kind of forcing an anchor tag on top of people, but that's not always the case. Maybe use something like maybe using Reach router or React router or Gatsby link or any of those, right? So I kind of want to also add an example for that. So we're going to go to our breadcrumb.mdx and also add an example for that. I'm going to use external link, right? And the API for that should, maybe you should like just bring your own links. So I'm going to comment this out here first and write something like external link or like third party router, right? If you're using a third party router, then you need an external link. Let's see. You can bring your own. Actually, you can plug in a third party link component. Example one from some like reach router, right? Reach router or Gatsby or whatever. Cool. And then the API for that, I kind of want to do the Gatsby one first because this site is built on Gatsby, so I already have that installed. Gatsby link. Right. At the same time, let's start coding the example. Function external link. Copy this. Export it. Okay. Alright, so this is how it works. So it's import link from Gatsby. We're gonna. Oh, I already have that. Perfect. And then it says link to. So it doesn't say href. It says. And then in the example, we kind of also want to like say that we're using something external. Import link from Gatsby, and then probably like some like render. So this is why I like to keep my examples, like the documentation examples, fake, because this is not actually legit syntax. Neither is this dependency defined, right? So I kind of try to create this as fake and then plug the real examples so that I can actually add something. In fact, I want to replace this with reach router because that's probably what somebody is using here. Reach or React router. External link. No. Okay, what is this called? Oh, okay, it is called that. Perfect. And now, when you say to, you should also be able to say which component to use, right? So maybe something like this, where you say as link. This has luckily become like a standard where you just say what component. Like, there's a bunch of different ways of putting it, but luckily we all agree that this is a decent way to do it. So you say implement breadcrumb link, but put it as a link, like this link that I am giving you. Alright, perfect. Now, what I want to do here is in my breadcrumb link, let's fold this. Yeah. I want to grab link from here and then say you got to capitalize it because this should be a capital letter. And say use this, right? And of course this wouldn't always be defined, so I'm also gonna say like put a default props on it and add something like this. Like it by default should be an anchor tag unless you specify, and when you specify it just uses what you gave it, right? So just to test this out, I'm gonna go to examples and change this as to what should we change it to? Let's make it let's make it a span to see if it works. Yep, so all of these are span because we asked them to. Of course, you wouldn't want to do this, but it's a good way to test it. Alright, so this is good. Now there are some things here which is, this thing is selectable, which is kind of bad because you don't really want, like this is purely decorational, right? When you use a screen reader, actually let me try using a screen reader here. Speech.
Home components breadcrumb.
So it doesn't, oh you can't hear it I guess, but it doesn't read it, it just says home components breadcrumb, but I'm not sure if all the screen readers do is select. So I'm going to change this. The role of this, where is my separator? Right, I'm going to use an ARIA role here. So we can either do something like this, role presentation, or we can do ARIA hidden, right? I'm not actually sure what's the difference between the two. Both basically say that you should, like, this is not for the screen reader to talk, right? And you usually do this in like icons and stuff, where if you have like an icon and a button, you don't really want the screen reader to pronounce the icon and what the icon is about. You want it to say what is the text, what is the label. So let's see. Most of the document finds about role presentation, spacer images, layout. That's not very helpful in 2016. Wow, okay. Now we're like 2019. Presently used elements that need to be in the DOM, which is the case here, but the semantics of them are inaccurate or unnecessary. Basically telling a screen reader that the semantics of these elements are wrong, so ignore them. Table role presentation is often used to present the world. That makes sense. Okay, then what is ARIA hidden? Completely hiding a screen from the element is pretty common. A UI element is detrimental or unimportant to assistive technology. You see this a lot with icons. Yep, that's what we're doing. You mimicking the visual UI, like menus opening or closing. Okay. ARIA hidden, true. Okay. I think this is what we're going for, right? So using ARIA hidden true will completely remove all child element from the accessibility tree, and it doesn't actually play with the semantics. So when you're thinking about removing an element, am I removing the element altogether or just the semantics? I actually want to remove it altogether. So it should be ARIA hidden instead of role presentation. So this is perfect. And now Breadcrumbs also have their own accessibility role, I think. Let's see. So yep, they have an ARIA label Breadcrumb. So this will tell the screen reader that you should tell the user that this is a ARIA label. Sorry, this is a breadcrumb. Where do we put it? Oh, we don't really have a parent for this, do we? Cool, so let's create like an element where we can push this. Right. Oh, we actually have an element, I just didn't use it. Wait, I do remember using it. Oh, there it is, my bad. There we go. So this should have ARIA label breadcrumb. Perfect. And then you also should... Oh, I should probably use the nav element. I'm not sure. I'll come back to that. As well as applying an ARIA current page to the last item. Okay. So we need to add an ARIA current on this one to tell people that we're on this page. That makes sense. So it should only be on the last one because that's the current one for us. And there we go. If it's the last, then we just attach it here. That does it. Right, so now when we do a console log real quick. Let's see. Cool, so this is what we have. We have like this is the breadcrumb. And then there's the home, which is an anchor. It will pronounce it as that. Then it has an ARIA. This is hidden, so it will be skipped. Then it has components is next link. This is skipped, and then this is breadcrumb. It will tell you that this is the current page. I don't have audio set up. Actually, you might be able to hear it from the screen to the mic to your ears. Worth a try. I don't know how to use this properly, so you might hear a lot of randomness. There we go.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Local estate 1000/breadcrumb/breadcrumb/.
Okay, so now we're on the page.
Main.
That sounds right.
Visited link. Visited link. Skip to content. List
Oh god, where are the wrongs? I should know how to use this.
List token. End of heading level 1.
Okay, perfect.
Indicate the current page's location within a navigational hierarchy.
Right, so this is how people who are visually impaired, they use it like this. So they basically go through the page
Level 2. Examples.
and then they hear it, right? So it also has semantics where it says heading level 2, right? And then this is the
Screen sharing. Icon live. Dialog. Home. Show screen sharing. Examples. Selected. Sound levels.
okay.
Show comments window. Button. Screen sharing.
Oh damn.
Icon live. Dialog. Screen.
Yeah, I lost my I lost my cursor. I'm gonna start again.
Welcome to Mac OS.
That's perfect.
Voiceover is on. Chrome. Main. Visited link. Skip to content.
That's nice. I should be able to enter it. No, should be able to spacebar.
Visited link.
There we go.
Skip to content.
And then
Heading level in breadcrumb group.
breadcrumb. Okay, how do we get inside this? Do we say space? Yeah.
Breadcrumb.
Oh, it went to the last one. Okay.
Link. Visited link. Home. Link. Components. Breadcrumb.
Oh, it just said breadcrumb.
Link breadcrumb.
Huh, it doesn't really tell you which one is the active one. So we're probably doing something wrong here. Let's try this on the Bootstrap nav. Okay, so they have breadcrumb. They do have this, which is the same. Aria current is page. Huh. Not really sure if they always pronounce it, like they always say it out loud, or, because it did say this is home is a link, competence link, and then breadcrumbs is just breadcrumb. Right? It's not a link. Not really sure if that makes a difference. But anywho, let's try it out here. Assistive technology on, and then I want to.
Breadcrumb middle dot bootstrap web content.
Yep, that's the one.
Breadcrumb middle dot bootstrap web content. Breadcrumb middle dot bootstrap web content.
I think I'm stuck.
Breadcrumb item was removed. Breadcrumb middle dot bootstrap. Breadcrumb middle dot bootstrap.
Okay, this is a pain to use. For people who don't know, of course.
Welcome to Mac OS. Breadcrumb.
Ooh, I think there's like a way of entering the page.
Link.
There we go, I made it.
Skip to main content.
That's what you want. Skip to main content. Let's do it.
Skip to main content. Heading level 1. Indicate the link.
Nice.
Link. Heading level. Breadcrumb. Navigation.
Nice. Oh,
Heading level. Breadcrumb. Navigation.
huh, that's interesting. Breadcrumb navigation, which makes a lot of sense because it is a type of navigation, and it should say. So I should use a nav element.
List 1 item.
Okay, let's go next.
End of breadcrumb. Navigation.
Nice. Let's go inside.
List 2 items.
Huh, which is also pretty cool.
Link. Home. Slash. 2 of 2.
Haha, they actually show slash, which is stupid. They shouldn't.
Library. End of list.
But it doesn't say current
End
page.
of breadcrumb. Navigation. List 3 item. Link. Slash. Link. Light slash. Data.
We might have found a bug in Bootstrap. It shouldn't actually say slash. That's kind of useless. I'm going to file that later. But for now, I know that we're doing some things wrong, which is this should not be a div. This should be a nav. So that's perfect. That's layer 1 of doing this. This should be a nav. And then it did say on the Bootstrap one that it's a list, which makes a lot of sense. So we should actually wrap this in a list, and each child should be oh wait, this is the list. This is a list element, and then this is the breadcrumb, which is a nav which has a list inside it. What did I break? Oh, bad syntax. Cool. So let's look at the rendered HTML. Oop, broke something. Cool, so it's a nav, it's a UL, it's a list, and then there is stuff inside it, and this, it kind of is inside the list, but I don't think it matters because it's anyways going to be skipped. But something interesting is that we want our list to be horizontal, right? And I want to say I have an element for that. Actually, I probably built it. There we go. It's a stack, which I can just import. So import stack from Reactron. I haven't actually, have I documented this? Layouts and stack. I haven't. I should. And then, so the UL. Actually, this thing should, the list should extend the stack, I guess. So I'm going to say list is a styled stack. And I'm going to put the as prop here that it's a stack as a UL. I don't really know how to do that. So this should actually be cool. So I think I get it. This should be a stack. And then the stack element should accept as prop. Which should go here. Should I just create it dynamically? That kind of feels wrong. Oh, I wonder if emotion already has an as prop. I'm sure they do. Motion as prop. This is an issue. We don't know if it's closed or open yet. It's closed. Awesome. There's a bunch of discussion on it. I should actually be reading the docs and not the issue. Well, emotion as such. The as prop. Component as selector, as prop. Perfect. So we're using this, and you can just say as. Perfect. So that's amazing. I can just say as over here. In fact, I can probably take it all the way back and put it here. Stack as a UL. Does that work? Yep. There we go. So now it's stack, but the styles are all wrong. Because this UL of ours, which is a stack, has, actually I can just read the code here. Stack. Perfect. So stack actually uses display flex, and it says justify content space between. We actually want all of them on the left, so we can say justify content is left, start. I don't really know what they're called. Let's see. Layout. Oh, there's a flexbox. Flexbox. Justify content. Oh, this just reads the properties of CSS. So justify content. I'm gonna do MDN. Okay, it's called start and not left. Start. Reloading. The screen's a little bit flickery. There we go. Okay, I'm not sure if that did anything. Let's see. This UL has a justify content start, which is perfect, but it doesn't work. Okay. There is a left. Huh, I didn't know that. Space between, space evenly. Oh, okay, I get it. So the start is not the problem because it does start from the left, but it also then has a bunch of extra space around it. Which, let me see the styles here. Which is bizarre, it shouldn't. What gives it extra width? There's a li, which has, where is this coming from? Oh, god damn it. So I have my docs all wrong. I have some styles for CSS. I have some styles for the documentation, and that's kind of creeping in because it's global styles. This is why I don't like to use CSS, because I screw it up too often. There we go. This is all wrong. This shouldn't be here. I wonder what this is for. I'm sure this is for like maybe the sidebar. So I can, yeah, there's a sidebar class. I'm gonna scope it. Sidebar UL, sidebar li. Oh shit, there's a bunch of them. Oh, this is already scoped. Great. Reload, please. That's hella slow. There we go. Perfect. So that's nice. But this is ugly. We don't want this. Cool. So do we have a list element? We don't have a list element yet. That would have been handy right now. So I'm just going to overwrite it right now. So I'm going to add a style here, which is something like, what do you call it? I want list style to be none. Can I get on one line? Thank you. Perfect. There's also some, not sure if I'm saying this, but there's also like a bunch of margin here. Not sure if that's intentional. Yep, there we go. UL, so by default you get this, right? This is like native styles where you get a bunch of margin. We don't want that, so again I'm going to override this. Actually, let me cut this out and put this as temporary styles. Temporary list styles. Right, and I'm going to put them here as temporary list styles is something. And I'm going to add a to-do here. Remove when you create the link component. Because I want the link component to have all of this. So list style should be none. Margin should be just 0. I don't want it to have any default margin. Perfect. Okay. Still has margin because I'm sure I modified the wrong thing. Okay, you can't see it, but my laptop is kind of right here and the big screen is here, so I have to keep resizing this window because sometimes things are hidden behind the laptop. Okay, there we go. Cool. The UL, it also has padding on the left. Let's see. There you go. Padding inline start is the default field. Okay, that's nonsense. Okay, this should be padding inline start. Now, there are like weird things happening here. So I usually use style system to style this like this, but over here I'm putting it in a custom style because when you're using a stack, you don't really want to pass all of these to the stack, right? Like the stack only supports layout and flexbox styles. It doesn't support all of the other ones, right? And that's intentional. So eventually we actually want to just replace this with a link, right? I'll want to say something like use a a list component. But for now, until we actually build that, we're going to put inline styles over here. Perfect. This looks pretty. Let's just do our final test to see if this is accessible. Screen reader on. Okay.
Chrome busy.
Sure.
Welcome to Mac OS.
And still learning how to use this.
Main.
Okay, that's right. Skip to content.
Visited link.
Perfect.
Skip press visited link.
There we go.
Heading level 1. Breadcrumb. Indicate heading level 2. Examples.
Alright, now hear this.
Breadcrumb. Navigation.
Perfect. Then we go down.
List 3 items.
3 items, that's amazing.
Visited link. Home.
Perfect.
Link. Components.
Ooh,
2
it
of 3.
didn't say link. Oh, it did say link. Okay.
Breadcrumb. 3 of 3.
Okay, so it's a list item 1, 2, 3, and breadcrumb. Huh. Which is perfect. It still doesn't say current page, which I'm only slightly annoyed by. So let's find out what it does. Where did I put it? There we go. Aria current. Okay, so in theory, yeah, so that makes sense. We would visually highlight sometimes what's active, especially if it's a link. You might want to change the color. Where is it? So, for example, the active thing, we make it blue here, but it's still a link, right? And there is no way of differentiating this link with this link if you're like using a screen reader. So that's why you use an active, ARIA active, or what do you say, ARIA current label. What is the prop called? This is called ARIA current. But in this case, this is not even a link. So it doesn't actually do anything. Right. Like all the examples here are also links. I wonder why Bootstrap even has that then. Maybe it's just like a... So there are like theories that I have. Maybe this is like just good practice, just leave it there. Maybe it is because the link is actually on the list over here. Oh, that's interesting. We don't use it on the list, do we? Do we use it on the span or the list item? Ooh, okay. We use it here, which is stupid, I guess. Which is actually pretty cool for me because I can just put it here then. Right. So I want to say ARIA current is, if it's the last, then this is the page. Otherwise, it's nothing. Right. Even in that case, like I think it's just a good practice because if you change this, if you want to use something else here, this will stay. But it doesn't actually provide any utility right now. I wonder if anyone's asked that before. I'm going to check that later. Cool. Alright, so that's kind of, I guess, the end of this list. Actually, I want to do one more thing, which is I want to add a custom separator. So, let's see. Oh, and we should also probably document something here. Let's see. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy the first example and put a new block here for custom separator. Actually, I'm just call it separator. And then what I want is you should be able to give your own separator. Maybe something like, I don't know, like this element. You probably can bring your own icon as well. That would be cool. So instead of this, you can say, use the icon or use like an image tag or something. So that's nice. Let's build this out. Function separator has props, renders the same thing as this one, but with a separator. Prop separator is this one. And finally, we export it. Separator. Alright, Godwin, cool username asks. Do you avoid Git comments on video because they could be uninteresting to the audience? Kind of. So, there were multiple times that I was like, I should really commit this. I don't want to lose this progress, but it's kind of boring. Plus, it kind of breaks the flow of experimenting because it's like a hard stop, right? But yeah, you shouldn't worry about it too much. Cool. So I have a separator here, and now we need to actually implement the separator. So this is our default guy, and actually I'm just going to say props.separator, and that should work, right? as long as there's a default separator, which is this thing, the slash. Cool. Reload. Okay, there we go. That's pretty cool. I lost the separator here. Oh no, my default separator doesn't work anymore. I'm gonna also break this out because again, like when you're forwarding props to the element, this one, which I wasn't doing, which I really should, we don't want the separator to go there. Separator props. Perfect. Separator. Ooh, this is not on the link. This is actually, I know what I'm doing wrong. This should be breadcrumb dot default props. There we go. That should work. And also let's document this real quick. Breadcrumb dot prop types. Right? Do I have prop types up top? Nope. Import prop. Got down. Prop types from prop. What's the package? This. And perfect. So separator should be a. I'm just gonna with string for now, and then document it here. Custom separator. Actually, that's not what this is. Separator between link items. That's pretty bad comment. Huh. So the reason I write these comments is because they will show up in the documentation, which you will see in a second. Any second now. There we go. Right. So you have these props, separator between link items, and there we go. There's the default. So the way I've hooked up my documentation is that the default element gets its props shown, but right now there's no real way of showing like the child elements thing. Like you don't see the props of breadcrumb link that it can take as, which is I guess documented here. But we should also, I should find a way to create a table for this. I want to say, okay. Kind of lost where my documentation is. Custom, okay, there we go. Custom, you can use your own separator. You can define your own separator as well with the separator prop. Perfect. And we didn't really say which prop you should use if you want this thing. You can plug in your link component with the as prop. Perfect. That should do it. Cool. Hey, Deepti in the comments. What's up? Deep says, somehow I feel CSS part is becoming more lengthy. Do you think that as well? Kind of. So let's actually take a quick look at the entire component. So these are the imports. This is kind of the, what do you say, the definition so that we can work on our CSS. And then you of course have the breadcrumb component. This is temporary, we should get rid of it, and this is the function, right? So I kind of like how neat that is, but this is where just correct me. This is where I think you are saying that it's lengthy because it's like all on the JSX, which is true, but that's like the conversation about object-oriented styles versus functional styles. I'm kind of really digging the functional styles approach right now. That's usually not my approach, but I'm like trying it out now. And I really like it because it kind of gives you this thing where, for example, let's talk about the separator, where the separator, you can define that the separator gets only these two customizations, and then the style system kind of defines what should it expect. So for example, the space thing gives you access to these, but you can't really set anything else, right? And then when you go to the separator, you can quickly define this with the constraints, right? So these are coming from tokens, which I really like. If I have to create this like manually, I would probably do something over here and say the color is like import from tokens and then say like tokens.grays.5, right? Which is kind of the same effort. Or I would not do either of these and write them in CSS, style.css, where you'll also have to do something like separator and then color is maybe hopefully define it from like CSS variables, where I'll say gray 5, and then add a class name here, right? So it's like the overall effort is pretty much the same, right? It's the same amount of work it's the same amount of rendered CSS, right? Like this only has the amount that it needs. But in this case, it's kind of right where we want it, right? So it's exactly on the separator. And now if I want to like replace the separator or kind of like remove the separator, it goes away with its styles, right? I don't have to trace it back, right? That's kind of like the whole functional CSS idea with it. So to answer your question, I actually don't feel like the CSS is becoming lengthy. I feel it's the same amount of CSS, especially the rendered CSS is the same. And while writing it, it's placed next to the element instead of being somewhere else, which I kind of dig. The only part that bugs me is that I have to define this on top, which I actually want to change. So I asked Brent Jackson or Jackson Black, how I don't know how he likes to be referenced. I asked him if just like creating a big fat element is a good idea. Where do I find it? Oh god, okay. I tweet a lot. There we go. So as an on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it an idea to just create like a base component, right? For example, instead of doing this, can I just create one component which has all of these properties, right? So like basically everything that's customizable just in that one element. And then I don't need to create this every time. I can just say base as a span, right? And base, or actually element is a pretty cool name, but something like base as div. What is this? This is not a div. This is a nav, right? So I want to get there, but it does have its, what did he say? He said perf-wise, it doesn't matter which is perfect. I'm on system v5. API-wise, it's a little weird because you kind of defeat the point of it if you make everything customizable, right? Style system is like these props are essentially like the opposite, right? So when you define something on top, you're saying the people who are going to use the separator can only customize these and nothing else, which makes a lot of sense outside the component library. So if somebody wants to use a component library, right, they should be able to customize a few things, right? Like they should be able to add margins and like basically layout properties and position properties. But anything else, like any sort of customizations, should really happen through the theme, right? So if you want to change your, say, font sizes, you should be able to do it here and not on each one of them, right? So that's kind of the idea. And I don't know how to get it, but yeah, that's like a really long answer to a short question. Sorry. Godwin says you could find that tweet super fast by typing Twitter search from to. Oh, that's pretty cool. Huh, I didn't know that. To just Jackson Black. There we go. Oh wait, I can also see everyone else who pinged. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's like a good way of stalking conversations if you want. Cool. So Breadcrumbs took forever, and the next thing to work on is button, but I probably am gonna stop this live stream here and do button tomorrow. I want to work on the API, like the thing that I just described, creating a base element. It's probably not a good idea, but I want to explore that path. I'm going to go down and see what happens there. So that's what I'm going to work next. And then maybe tomorrow when you see, you'll see the base element. Hey, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Horacio or is it Horacio? I know it's a Spanish name, but my Spanish is no bueno. The problem, what that is, the API at the end, it will be a mess. I tried that couple of times, but it's tricky down the line. Yeah, I kind of see what you mean. It's like you're kind of opening up the API completely, right? Which is you're going back to everything's possible, which defeats the whole point of this. I'm wondering if there's a way to restrict it the other way around, so that component author, like anyone who's working on the component library part, they have all the access, but then the user who uses your component doesn't have access to all of that, right? I'm guessing that prop types would be a good way, right? So if you define, maybe on the base element, you define that these are the props that are customizable and everything else is not. It's going to be like a weird long prop type hack, which is like get all the prop name from style system, and then if you try to modify the position things, it just doesn't say anything. But if you try to define something that you shouldn't use in the API but should use in a theme, it should give you a warning that don't do it here, do it in the other file. Yeah. The cool thing with that is everything can extend from the same component. Exactly. That's kind of what I really want here. So I don't know. I'm going to experiment with that and we will see what happens. Cool. So I'm going to stop the live stream here. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. So tomorrow, hopefully, we can get the button and the button group down. I'm saying like hopefully because button is like a beast on its own. And yeah, there's a bunch of things to do. So anywho, last thing to say here, there's something that I kind of saw, like there was a comment, I don't remember by whom, but they basically said something that I'm trying to do is a bad idea, and it kind of defeats the purpose of how the tool is built, right? And which is totally fair. Like the author of the tool had some things in mind, and they kind of want to promote best practices and put you in the right spot, right? So that's really cool if it's a good API. The downside of that is that you don't really experiment with it then, right? And you don't really get ideas for how it can be better, right? So my whole idea with creating this base element is that I kind of want to go wild with it to kind of like break the best practice to see if it can open up a different API or a different developer experience. And if it doesn't, then we can just track back, right? We can say, oops, this was a mistake. But it's really easy to kind of just not do things because this seemed like a bad idea at first, but there's like something to experimentation that it kind of shows you what's possible when you reach there, right? So it's like, I don't really know what I'm going to find right now, but I would never find it unless I try it out and try to build something with it, right? I don't know. It's kind of just a weird philosophy thing, I guess. All right, cool. I'm going to stop here. And I'll see you folks tomorrow. Ciao.